One. And we are live with Interchain Live. This is Ryan Munn, and I'm here to have a conversation with Jacqui Cooper with Blockchain Legal Institute, found at BLI.Tools online. And Jacqui wears a couple other hats, so I'd like to let her introduce that because it's a nice balanced meal, as we the analogy we used a moment ago. And yeah, really glad to have you here, Jacqui. Really appreciate your time, and really excited to learn more about the various roles that you operate in, and how this all comes together in the work that you do.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate what you're doing too, because both of us are within the Government Blockchain Association, and we're trying to educate and help people kind of learn how to navigate these innovative technologies. And there's a lot going on. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of share with your audience for sure. So yeah, I mean, my background, kind of, first I was thinking it's two-pronged, but it's actually many more than that. But it's in law and it's in education, and those are the two primary areas. And I'm really passionate about making sure that those that are within our community are served, and those that are also within the community can find the resources and tools that they need so they can educate themselves, whether it's in their own personal investment or self-learning, or in their business and that type of thing. Because as you and I've talked about, the technology is changing so rapidly, and now it's being applied to so many other areas that 10 years ago we would not even have thought about.
Absolutely. So the one hat is founder of Blockchain Legal Institute, and you also work for a university.
So I am actually a nationally board certified special education teacher. And so I'm at the elementary side. However, I'm also doing higher education as well. Okay. So because I'm based in Maryland, I doubt there's a lot going on. Because I'm based in Maryland, I started the Maryland Blockchain Association. And that's a member organization, but it's also education, workshops, things like that. There's a virtual free meetup for people to come and learn more about who's in the community. Because our community is decentralized, it's sometimes hard to find like-minded people to kind of ask questions and just kind of get started. So that's what the meetup's all about. But and the Maryland Blockchain Association actually recently just became a partner with Capital Technology University, which is a 50-year-old university here in Maryland, just about 20 minutes outside of Washington. And they're all about technology. And they have an AI center, but they had nothing blockchain related. So we're creating a blockchain academy, blockchain center that will bring in entrepreneurs and resources, both in person as well as virtual. So I'm really excited about doing that. So that's sort of my higher ed side, because I do think that from a career development perspective, there's a great deal of opportunity for those that are just out of high school, out of college, out of graduate school.
Absolutely. Excellent. Yeah. And it's a great location to be close to DC, close to the power centers, but also, really serving the various populations there that need opportunities to, pivot in their career, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Because, I've career switched and sometimes not left different careers, but kind of blended. And with the blockchain community, you can actually take your talents into a lot of different areas that you might not think apply, but it does, because every company needs a marketing person. They need, social media managers. They need the basics, even though the tech that might be underlying their service might be blockchain. They still have the same Web 2 challenges that are even though they're Web 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So elaborate a little bit more, if you will, on Blockchain Legal Institute. And so what does that offer, and how does that complement the Maryland Blockchain Association?
Yeah, so I started the Blockchain Legal Institute before I decided to start the Maryland Blockchain Association. The blockchain Legal Institute actually is a centralized library of decentralized resources. So when you go to BLI.Tools, you'll see that there's a vertical for AI, for news, for blockchain uses, for cryptocurrency, from Bitcoin to Ethereum to stablecoin. And there's laws from around all 50 states, information about that, also about around the world, associations. It's a living library. Basically, as the team goes to various conferences, we're constantly uploading various links and everything. So, where it is today and where it's going to be, down the road, it's going to be huge, because the people that we're meeting is, those individuals, those talk shows that I'm doing for them are also getting uploaded. And we also do 2 global summits. March 21st is our next global summit. Those are live streamed, but then we record them, so that way people can go back and enjoy and listen and learn. And the one on the 21st is all about sandboxes, SROs, and economic zones. As I've been reaching out to invite people to speak, I'm learning so much more about the diversity of what those 3 little words actually mean, because it's not just, a circle. I mean, there's squares, there's triangles. I mean, there's all the diversity that happens, just like in our community. So it's going to be a really interesting summit. The one in October is about consumers, and we've never had a consumer-oriented summit, so that's going to be very interesting. We'll talk about products and services, but also how to protect yourself. As well as how to explore new tech. So again, artificial intelligence is also part of the library. And blockchain's been around for over 30 years. AI, equal amount of time, even though we might not be categorizing it as such. But there's so many fast changes that are happening. So I can't even imagine what's going to happen in the next 4 months by the time we talk about consumers.
Yeah, absolutely accelerating in all aspects of emerging tech, where, a lot of these things have been around for decades. Even I spoke with someone who was working on AI 40 years ago, and they really, it's the immediacy of now that's hitting, and these things all coming together, and it brings cybersecurity to the forefront. It brings public knowledge to the forefront. The necessity of educating people to protect themselves, and also how do we use these tools across the needs, right? How do we use AI to enhance cybersecurity? How do we use enhancing cybersecurity to make blockchain more accessible to people? And it's definitely a diverse challenge, but it's something that I'm excited to see the progress in that. So it's great to hear that you're doing the consumer event as well. You must have, was that something you kind of were ahead of, or did you start getting a lot of demand and interest in that kind of triggered that? How did that come into, how did that idea start to turn into a reality?
Well, our first event was about the general big picture idea, and then we've been kind of piecing it out. So we've talked about sustainability, and one of our strategic partners, Rio Digital, is based in Japan, and they actually have an ecosystem. They have a wallet, and they have a lot of other things. So as we've been working with them, we've always been forward thinking, looking, okay, what's the next summit needs to be about? And the conversation about consumers just seemed to make sense, especially because I wrote another book besides the Bitcoin Cinderella books. I wrote the book for my daughter and myself, The Essential Digital Asset Organizer for Attorneys and Their Clients, because if we have a will and we don't have an asset organizer and we're doing something online, then your family doesn't know about the tech tools that they need to know in order to access that generational wealth that you are hoping to create. And so, the more that consumers are now dipping their fingers into buying a meme token or Bitcoin or anything else like that, they're not, because like you and I've talked about, it's a fast food mentality. They're not taking it seriously, thinking that this could actually have some value to their family, and they need to let their family know about the existence of that, because if something happens to them medically or otherwise, it's just left online. And so, again, there's a loss to the family member that maybe they wanted to buy and leave it, and the attorney might have created the will might not, one, know to even ask, do you have digital assets, or two, know how to access the digital assets. And so again, you're at a loss. So literally, so the consumer side became pretty evident to me when I was kind of struggling through my own online world, thinking, okay, I am an active consumer, I'm an educated consumer, but I'm a very disorganized consumer. So if I'm going to be, walking the talk, I need to help others do the same thing too.
That's excellent. It's really important too. I know I've watched some interesting technologies evolve around legacy planning, not related to crypto, but the evolution again of the technology used to ensure that those processes can happen more smoothly can start to be applied, I hope, and start to bring some of these developers and innovators together to recognize how these technologies start to work together. It's definitely a scary thing to think about, having all that value just lost to the family. One of the reasons for doing these things oftentimes is building generational wealth, changing that economic position, and to just lose it all because we lose our capacity and our family members don't know what to look for. And granted, some people might want to keep it private, but what's a will but a contract, right? So if we can start to really digitize these processes, turn the contracts from the paper-based will into some of these more advanced tools that can really handle the legacy planning and transitioning, that can be really powerful for preserving wealth and helping new wealth holders really build it and pass it on.
Yeah, and it's getting more complicated. Like on my phone, there's all these double authenticator type of, tools that have popped up, which means that, a family member, it's not just going to an email anymore. You have to double authenticate, and you sometimes have to click on a few things. And if someone is trying to handle a medical emergency and they realize that you have online certain funds that you can convert over to help with that, they need to have the knowledge of how to do that, but also the patience, because it's not easy to kind of, navigate. So, there's just a lot of layers that are going on right now. And then the other thing is with, whether it's cryptocurrency or NFTs or anything that's not in that space, we often forget the quantity of the dollars or the value that's actually online. So if you look in your wallet, you might have invested a certain amount, but then there's the appreciation of it. And if you're not tracking it, then all of a sudden when you go in to kind of take a look, maybe it's at the end of the year for your, and from the appreciation perspective, people just need to take note, because again, it can definitely be a substantial value and also a substantial loss, but you just have to keep track of it. I mean, talking about risks and rewards, again, we also need to look at, hacks or, protection and security from that perspective. And so when I created the Blockchain Legal Institute, it was to provide a variety of resources, but also to think about just to kind of make it easier for people to find that for them as they're doing their own research.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to touch a little bit on some of the writing you've done too. You mentioned it briefly, and I know you talked about it before when we spoke. And is it the 2 books, or have you written something else as well?
I've written 6 books actually.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I thought there was more of a collection there. So share with you a little bit about kind of the timeline and some of those books that you've written along the way.
So the first book that I wrote is called The Bitcoin Cinderella. It's actually, as I've mentioned to you, it's like Harry Potter and the blockchain. It is in multiple languages, in Spanish and English, Creole, soon French. And it's a fun fairy tale. It's a really easy read for kids, even though I'm not suggesting that youth invest in Bitcoin, but it integrates science and tech into a fairy tale. And the foundation story is just a fun read. A third grader could probably read that story without any, problem, even though I do recommend parent read alouds, especially because in the back of the book, there's vocabulary there and you do want to kind of ask and answer questions. The second book is a little bit more complicated. It's the Bitcoin Cinderella and the Seven Dwarves. It's all about Bitcoin mining. So the dwarves are actually talking about hard forks and soft forks, a lot of the tech, and I'm actually a Bitcoin miner, so I had to research that, even though I do have a rig. So that was fun. So Cinderella goes over to El Salvador and visits her cousin Snow White, and has a whole adventure there. And then the next book right after that in the series is the Bitcoin Cinderella and the Spirit of Shiba Inu. And that is actually about the meme token. And it takes place in Japan and comes back over to the States. And it's not to promote meme tokens, but to talk about the technology and how it gets created and different things within. And then and I had the pleasure of interviewing the team that actually created the Shiba Inu. So that was a fun time to talk to them about that. And then the next book that I just wrote was the Bitcoin Cinderella and the Pink Sands Treasure of Bermuda. That's about the Bermuda island and what they're doing in the fintech world. And that was fun because I spoke at the Bermuda FinTech Conference, I guess it was about a year ago. And so we toured all over the island. So the adventure that Cinderella goes is all over the island. So there's a lot of tourist and pictures and just, but also tech talk. And then the next book that I wrote is actually not, there'll be 10 books in the Bitcoin Cinderella. There'll be one about DAOs, one maybe about insurance, who knows? But the next book I wrote is dealing with fundraising for nonprofits using digital assets. And I have started a foundation, the Blockchain Legal Institute Foundation, which is a 501c3. So we can accept cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, but I haven't really been focusing on fundraising using that. I should probably, but we wrote the book, Patrina Pelton Smith and I, to help board of directors understand what to do if they are approached to fundraise using digital assets and what kind of things that they need to put in place. And then the other book that I wrote was the Essential Digital Asset Organizer for attorneys and their clients. And that really is a workbook for families, not just attorneys, to use to create that addendum for their will. So, and I think that was, I'm looking down at I think that was all so far.
Yeah.
I know that there's another book coming out, which is a collage of articles for BLI, but it was supposed to be out in December. It's probably not going to come out until April, but that's okay.
Okay, that's great. Well, yeah, so it sounds like you're having fun with the series, and that's such a great way to help introduce people to the technology and make it accessible. So really excited to see that happening. And the tool, the books that really help, especially nonprofits, I think that's so important. It's not unheard of for, a donor to want to donate to a nonprofit and expect them to maybe hold a portion of what's being donated for an endowment purpose. But when you go to, if you go to a nonprofit with a cryptocurrency, they seem to not want to treat it that way. They just want to turn it into cash right away, which, if that's the agreement, that's fine. But if a donor is really trying to help a nonprofit establish an endowment, then it really behooves, all nonprofits to understand what this is and start to, recognize that as a valuable asset as opposed to just, money.
Yeah, well, for some nonprofits also that are concerned or fearful about holding the tokens because of maybe value or liability, even though there's not really liability, but I guess from the perspective of rate of return. There are platforms, in fact, the one of the platforms that we're using allows you to either hold or convert. So if you want to convert right away, you can, and then so there are definitely, and the platform that we're using does not have any upfront fees. So that's the other thing, is that there are some very reputable companies that do charge upfront fees, but you have to do your research, because you might not be taking in that much cryptocurrency to make it worthwhile. And so, if you're just starting out, you want to have that bucket to be able to accept the currency, but you don't want to have that bucket end up costing you.
Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So those are things that we had to research and find out too.
Great, great. Well, I want to probably move into a wrap up here. I really appreciate learning more about BLI and the events you have going on, and the books that you've been writing. What's the best way for folks to find BLI? And are the books available on the BLI website, or is there another way they can find the books?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. So the Blockchain Legal Institute is BLI.Tools, because we're providing you tools. So BLI.Tools, and the books are available on Amazon. That was the easiest way to kind of provide a ship and shop type of way. So yeah, for sure. And then if you happen to be in Maryland, just, MarylandBlockchainassociation.org. Definitely let me know, because we're trying to grow the Maryland network. And it's amazing, the companies that McCormick, the spice company, uses blockchain. So, the companies that you don't think about for their supply chain are actually integrating it, because it's more cost effective. So, so reach out to me. I'm happy to help anyone and talk to all of you.
Excellent. And on the Maryland Blockchain website, they can find the meetups that you're doing. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yeah, there's at the very top of our website, we have a hyperlink, so that way they can go in, register, and there's no cost for going to the meetup. We started the Maryland Blockchain Association, I guess it was last May or June, and we have 150 people now on the meetup. So it's all virtual. Eventually we'll have an in-person kind of meetup, but I like virtual because, like your state, a lot of states are really large. And so there's no reason why we can't hop onto a meeting and say hi to people, no matter where we are in our state, using the Zoom. So that was a benefit of COVID.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make it available to everyone in a rural community.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jacqui, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and all the work that you're doing. It's really amazing. It's super impactful. And I want to invite everyone to like and subscribe here, but also look for the BLI.Tools podcast. Reach out to Jacqui if you've got something in the space that you want to talk about and cross over. And really appreciate everyone listening. This is Ryan Munn and Entertain Live.
Thank you so much.